What's up, Nerf herders? This is Allan from OC Nerf, and this video is a long time coming. This is an update finally to the Orange ModWorks SG Longshot kit. Things that I've done to it, things that I've discovered, things that have been changed by Orange ModWorks themselves. So let's go ahead and get right into it. If you purchased this kit, you may have hopefully gotten the updated version. What I mean by that is in my testing, I noticed that the bolt here would bow at higher spring loads, even at their 20 kg spring loads after long-term use. So what Orange ModWorks has done is they changed the print process to make it even more robust in the curing time of the SLA part. But additionally, I had recommended that they go ahead and take this small bit of reinforcement here and really reinforce it all the way to the back. I had also recommended going all the way up to where the nub was. As you can notice, the nub isn't here anymore. But they did part of that. So they went ahead and reinforced this whole back piece here, which is fantastic, so that it's even more rigid, that this doesn't bow even at the strong 18.5 kg turf spring loads. But because it wasn't all the way supported up at the nub had broken. Now, there's a couple of caveats about the nub breaking here that may not be an issue for you. On the old one, where the curing process was a little bit different and this was a little bit weaker, this broke not in the 20 kgs provided by the Orange ModWorks spring, but in the turf 18.5. This eventually snapped off for me. Using their updated version with the spine and the new curing process, this was able to handle an 18.5 just fine. However, I had a catastrophic failure in my Longshot wherein the catch, while the bolt was primed back, the catch slipped and this flew forward and slammed into the chamber and snapped the nub and also cracked what I did here, which I'll talk about in a second. So that might not happen for you, but it did happen for me. This was a much stronger piece. If you happen to get this version of it, fantastic. If you didn't, you might want to contact Orange ModWorks. Maybe they can work out something for you. I don't speak for them. This is just something I would recommend you go talk to them about. But this version with the thicker spine definitely keeps it from bowing. Now, the bowing problem is more than just an issue of this bowing, but it prevented you from being able to consistently prime the blaster, and if it was bowed far enough, you wouldn't be able to prime the blaster at all. It wouldn't go back far enough. So that became an issue. My solution, while this was being worked on by Orange ModWorks, was to take a piece of 17/32, I believe, aluminum, or 7/16 aluminum, which sleeves right into here with a little bit of E-tape and creates extra rigidity for this piece. Now, of course, as I mentioned, at using an 18.5 kg turf spring, I broke this, so this became irrelevant. But while I was using the Orange ModWorks 20 kg spring, this gave it enough rigidity not to bend. One negative aspect, though, is the inner diameter of this bolt is actually perfect for a 20 kg spring load on a Longshot. Doing this actually reduced the FPS by about 15 for me. It increased the rigidity, so I was willing to accept that, but the airflow was restricted with a smaller inner diameter on the bolt. So I wouldn't recommend doing that if you have this version of the kit with the thicker spine. The other thing that was changed on Orange ModWorks' end is, instead of putting a hole in the plunger tube right in front of the plunger head that you'd have to guess where it would land when primed, I went ahead and did what Alex Kong or Zorko has done on the artifact kits, which is drill a hole in the pusher part. So I've gone ahead and done that here on the original piece that I was using. And in seeing that, Orange ModWorks updated theirs to have multiple holes, which you can't see right now, but they also have multiple holes in the pusher end so that the vacuum sealing issue would be resolved in their pusher, and there was no need to make any manipulations to the plunger tube itself. Now, what did I actually do up here that's different, and why? So you'll notice that this is a piece of 17/32. Now this is 17/32 aluminum. You could also use 17/32 brass. It's the same, but there's a reason for it. And it's not to create any kind of rigidity in the nub. There's no problem, in this little stub up here. There's really no problem with that pusher stub. What I had a problem with was the chamber itself. Now, using dome-shaped darts, there was no problem with the chamber as is. However, if you were looking to use worker darts, you did run into some issues with this chamber, and this is what I did to fix it. Now, normally this was a 17/32 chamber, which means that your darts would have to fit into a tight barrel fit to start, which is good to have a tight barrel fit, but it makes feeding a little bit more painstaking. You have to be a little bit more careful. Darts have to be just right in order for that all to work out. What I went ahead and did is, since this is soft plastic material, I bored out the chamber for 9/16, and then I fit a stub of 9/16 brass inside of this. Now with 9/16 brass and a 17/32 pusher, I'm able to get a complete seal inside of that. So this pusher goes right up to this first ridge. What I went ahead and did next is I took the barrel and made it go back just almost to where that first ridge is. Now I'll tell you why I said almost and not all the way. If you have it here, which gives it about a gap of 2 to 3 millimeters, what that does is when a dart is being pushed into this chamber, imagine that there's a chamber around these two pieces here. When the dart is being pushed into the chamber, you'll have a problem. If it goes all the way up to it, you may run into a problem where a piece of the dart foam gets pinched between the two pieces. When it gets pinched, it can impede the action and travel of that dart, slowing it down, doing some weird funky things to it, or chipping a piece of that foam. You don't want that. So with a gap of 2 to 3 millimeters, it prevents that from happening because the dart will be pushed all the way into the barrel except to that point, and there won't be any kind of pinching. When the air is pushed through the bolt, it'll expand that dart and shoot it out the barrel, no problem. So you want to make sure there's at least a 2 to 3 millimeter gap to prevent any kind of pinching of the dart when those pieces come together. So that fits into there, and this fits into the 9/16 just fine, and it creates a complete tight air seal all the way through. Now, as far as barrel length, I went ahead and went with a 14-inch barrel using the Orange ModWorks 20 kg spring, and I was able to get pretty high numbers with that. I think I was getting somewhere along the territory of 275, maybe 280 with the Orange ModWorks spring, and I was breaking 300, I believe, with the 18.5 turf using this. Now, this barrel material is awesome in that it's lightweight, it's inexpensive, and it comes in an 18-inch size. Hold on here, my camera got tilted. Sorry. 18-inch size as opposed to the 12 that you normally would get with K&S brass. So you can get these longer 14-inch barrels without doing anything crazy like merging the two barrels together or having to purchase the more expensive 36-inch version of K&S brass and then cutting it down. The benefit to having it be longer without merging it together is you get a really nice consistent airflow. However, aluminum is not quite the same as brass. The brass just is much smoother and nicer for the dart to fly out of. So you will need to do some work to keep this up with the brass, which in my recommendation is you want to go ahead and put some dry Teflon lube inside of here. So dry Teflon lube spray and grease up and wax up the inside of your barrel to keep it nice for your darts. So that's the end of that barrel there. I can't use this anymore because I had, like I said, catastrophic failure. So I cracked this up here as well as broke that. Starting at 100. Lowest shot here, 113. Let's see where else these went. Right there. So there's two here, one over here. One over here about 150, that's where that cone is. This one's a little bit ahead. 155. And this is the top shot, I believe, at 163. Now this piece back here, there's a couple of things that you'll want to keep in mind. If you're having trouble priming it and getting that last millimeter or two, this might be an issue for you. So for me, it was. I took this off of mine depending on the spring I used. I think with the Orange ModWorks spring, it was okay. But with the Turf 18.5 spring, this became an issue. I couldn't quite prime it all the way, needed that extra millimeter or two. So I went ahead and swapped this out with a stock plunger tube end cap piece. Just cut off the ends to fit into the aluminum plunger tube from Orange ModWorks. And that worked out fine for me because it gives it a much thinner piece here. So instead of it being like this 2 to 3 millimeter thickness, it was only like a 1 or less than a 1 millimeter thickness. And it held just fine. So there was no issues there because it's braced up against the rear supports of the shell. Up here, I didn't have this issue, but other people did, in that they got warping on the plunger head. Again, it might come to the first batches didn't have this, the improved, what do you call that? The improved curing process that Orange ModWorks changed to. So that might have caused some of the warping. Now to solve some of that warping, which again, I didn't need to solve on mine, but for some people they did, you'll want to put a metal washer up here that fits with your screw. You might want to have two pieces if it doesn't quite fit with your screw, but find one that fits for your screw and small enough to fit over this plunger head so that it keeps it straight and rigid instead of warping. Again, I didn't have that problem, but if you do, you might want to take a look at fixing that with a metal washer. And those are the kit parts. There's really nothing else too extreme that I went ahead and changed to get this kit to work really well. This barrel worked out really well for me. I used the Monkey Mods rifled muzzle attachment up here during my run of this kit, and I ran this kit quite a lot last summer. So it worked out pretty well for me, and it did get a full and complete air seal. I also, as you can see here, on this version of the kit, this is the first version, added some tape underneath the O-rings here. But you'll notice that on the upgraded version, I didn't really need to do that too much. I think I had like one wrap of just Teflon tape to give it a little bit of tightness, because I do like my plunger caps really, really tight. And that's about all I really needed to do there. The other thing that you may not know is that you can use the original plunger head of the Longshot. You'll just need to put a lot of wraps of Teflon tape underneath the O-ring to get it to be thick and wide enough to fit inside the slightly expanded plunger tube of the Orange ModWorks aluminum plunger tube. And that's about all you need to know for the upgrades to this kit. If you have any further questions, if you've used this kit successfully or unsuccessfully, let me know in the comment section below. I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. And if I can't, please contact Orange ModWorks. They've been really good about customer support this time around. So ask them those questions and somebody will get back to you with getting with getting your kit working. Now this kit looks to be an upgrade to this kit with the new Longshot hybrid and fusion kits, which are not 3D printed. They're actually casted and molded parts with probably a lot of the improvements to it that we talked about, or I talked about with Orange ModWorks, and probably a little bit more. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that kit. I hope you are too. Again, if you found this information helpful, go ahead and give me a like. It really helps the channel out a lot. Leave me a comment down below. Subscribe if this is your first time watching this video, and check out the description and follow me on all the things down below. Thank you guys for watching, and Nerf on everybody.